Hello everyone, in this video I will show you how we can create grids inside Figma. So grids are visual structures that help designers to create consistent designs across multiple devices and screens. So I will be using two methods. First method is creating it by yourself. So after watching this video, you will be able to create grids by yourself inside Figma. And the second method that I will be using is Figma community. So Figma community have large number of designers who are creating or providing free resources in Figma community. So in the first method, before getting started, you should select one of CSS framework because every framework has its different spacing and different breakpoints and logic behind that. Please discuss it with your front-end developers or project managers or stakeholders that which CSS frameworks should you use. Or if you are developing it by yourself, so I would suggest to select a framework that you have more experience with because to memorize the classes that are used behind these CSS frameworks are quite different from each another. The most common famous CSS frameworks are Bootstrap, Tailwind, and Foundation. So in this example, I will only discuss about Bootstrap and Tailwind, and I will show what is the difference between both of them. So I will switch to the browser and open Bootstrap website and go to the documentation by clicking read the docs. And I will also go to Tailwind website and I will press get started. So first I will go to layout, and in layout I will go to container, and for the same one in Bootstrap I will go to layout and I will jump to containers. So over here you can see that it shows us what are the container classes and what is the difference. Like the smallest screen is 540, then you have 720, then you have 960, 1140, 1320. And if I go to Tailwind, in Tailwind, the standards are different. They have the smallest screen for 640 and max width is different and so on. So their containers are different. So if in design phase you have selected Tailwind and created your grid according to Tailwind, and in development phase your developers or you are more experienced with Bootstrap and create your website or your product with Bootstrap standards, so there will be a lot of difference between the design and the real product because the breaking points and spacing, there are a lot of difference between them. So to get started, first I will jump back to my Figma file and I will zoom out and I will select a frame. So I will start with the desktop first approach and I will show why I start with this approach. So I will select a desktop screen. I would select MacBook Pro 16. And to create a grid, I will go to this layout grid and press this plus icon. So now it is in grid state. I will go to this setting and I will change it from grid to columns. Now you can see that we have 5 columns, but in Bootstrap, the maximum number of columns are 12. You can read out the column section in the documentation. And now I need it to be inside the container. So instead of stretch, I will change it to the center. So Bootstrap have two kind of containers. One is called container, and the second one is called container fluid. So I will create for both of them. So I will go back to this container and now I need some value for gutter. So if I'm not sure what is the value for gutter, so gutter is the spacing between two columns. So we have created 12 columns, but now we don't know what is the space between two columns, the standard. So I will go to documentation, and in the documentation there is a tab called gutters. So gutter starts at 1.5 rem, that is 24 pixel wide. So the space between two columns is 24. And now I want to give width to this specific one column, and I'm not sure for that. So to find out the width for one column, I will go back to documentation and I will scroll down to this footer area and I will try to inspect this. And over here in column section, you can see that in code it's selected col 6, so it's having the space of col 6, and on larger screen it's 2. So I will change it to 1 instead of 2. So in this way, I will get the value of one column. So now you can see that the value for one column is 85.328. Instead of that, I will use 86 to be sure. So this is how I found the value for one column, and I will press enter. So now you can see that I created a grid, but it's just for the container. Like my prototype will be made inside a box, and that box is called a container in bootstrap terms. So in container, we also have an outside spacing, and to find that outside spacing, I will go back to the website and I will try to see that what is the container outside spacing right now, or in CSS it's called padding. So now you can see that here the container is XXL, and they have an additional gutter, it's called BT gutter. So I will remove these two classes and I will just make it container. And in computed, you can see that the padding outside the container right now is 12. So I will try to create it in the same way. And the space between this container is 1296. So now I will go and press ahead this plus icon once again, and I will change this from grids to column, and I will make it 2 because I need 2 spacing. And instead of stretch, I will make it center again, and this time I will also change or make the color a little bit darker, changing it to 15 so I can know. And the gutter, I saw that the space between was 1296. So over here, I will put 1296. And the width for that was 12 because the padding we saw it was 12. So now our container grid is created with the same standard as Bootstrap is defined. And if we start our prototyping, it will be the same as Bootstrap. And in later on stages, in development stages, if the developers are following it, they will create same as it was designed. And to make our grid more consistent and it helps us in consistency, I will create another grid above that. And instead of columns, this time I will select rows and I will make it auto. And instead of stretch, I will make it center, and gutter would be, I will define. So there are different spacing standards that you can follow for your project. So for my project, I'm following 2, 4, 8, 16, 24, 32, 64, and so on. So here I think that the value of 4 will be fine for me, and the height for one row should be also 4. And I will change this color from red to EF, 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 that's light gray kind of. So how it would help me in consistency, for example, if I'm creating some rectangles and I'm not sure where should it end or where should it stop. So it will give me some kind of snapping area. It will snap to the grid and it will show me a guideline, like you can see that the red one. So now I'm sure that how many grids it's covering and what should be the height. So my spacing standard is more consistent. And in same manner, if I want a spacing of, for example, I need spacing of 3 or 4 columns again. So now I know that where to snap it to the grid. So this is how it can make our design more consistent and help us to create really good prototypes. Now I'm jumping to container fluid, and in container fluid we can also call it a responsive grid. So to create a responsive grid, it means that it will cover the whole screen. So we are not sure right now, but maybe we need this responsive grid, and we also need it for mobile or tablet because we need the full screen for tablet and mobile. So to create this, I will jump back to Bootstrap website and just show you that how it's covering the whole screen. So if I jump back to the previous version of Bootstrap, like version 4.6, so you can see that here they were using the container fluid as by default, and it was covering the whole screen, and this was responsive. So I will go, and this time I will remove this 12 columns, press this plus icon once again, and I will change it to columns and make it 12 because Bootstrap have 12 columns, and the type will remain stretched. And gutter, we know that the gutter value is 24, and the margin from left and right should be 12. So this is the standard padding outside. So now we have created a responsive or container fluid grid. And if I go ahead and stretch or shrink my screen, you can see that it's not changing the value for the gutters, but it's only changing the value for the width of the column. So the column width is only changed like this. So I will press Ctrl Z and go back. And now for my library purposes and for future use, I will go ahead and define these grids in my library. So to define these grids in my library, I will press this four dots in front of layout grid, and I will press this plus icon, and I will give it a useful name. I will call it container, and for the container fluid, I will call it container fluid. So now we have defined two grids that are appearing in our styles, and maybe our product needs some mobile design or tablet design. So I will go ahead and create another frame just for mobile, and this time I will select from phone screen, I will select the smallest screen possible, that is iPhone SE 320, and I will bring it to the front. And now I will show you how responsive grid can help us over here. So I will go ahead and from my library, I will select container fluid once again. So now you can see that we have less space between the columns and we can't create our prototypes according to this column. So for that purpose, I will go ahead and I will detach this instance or detach the styles, and instead of 12 columns, I will make it 4 columns, and the gutter space would remain the same and the margin from left and right would remain the same. So now we have more breathing space and we can draw more elements inside our grid. And for this one, I will change the name on the top. I will call it mobile. And also for my library purpose, I will go to this library and create another one, call it mobile. So this is how we can create grids and reuse it in our overall project. And now I will show you how we can use the second method. So the first method requires some kind of CSS knowledge, and if you are not good with the CSS in initial stages, so you can try the second method. So for the second method, I will go to my home screen inside Figma, and I can type over here in the search bar, I can type Bootstrap Grid 5 for mobile. So the current version of Bootstrap is 5, but later on it might be changed. But by the time of recording my video, it was 5. So over here you will get a lot of results, but the one that I want to show is this one, Bootstrap Grid 5 version 5, bonus dash bootstrap icons. So once you open this design file, you will see the cover page and you can switch to the second page, and over here you will see a lot of documentation and different kind of screens and containers which are ready to use. And this is created by Victor Shai, and you can also donate him if possible. So first I will go to the mobile screen, and you can see that he has defined different standards, and according to that he created the grid. But I will be using this first, and this tablet screen and the desktop full HD screen. So I will select them by pressing shift and press Ctrl C to copy and come back to my design file. And this time I will remove my grids and also delete the grids that I just created and press Ctrl V. So they are appearing really far away from each other. So I will press Shift A or auto layout. So I will change the spacing between them and make it 100 and bring it over here. So now we have three grids. So I will make sure that I can reuse it in my project and define it inside my library. So I will select this first one. And in first one, you can see that he has defined columns according to mobile screen, and also there are different grids. But it depends, like if you want to use them, you can press this eye icon and it will show and hide according to that. But I will press this four dot icon and I will press create, and I will define it as mobile. And for the second screen, I will go ahead and define it again inside my library. I will call this tablet. And for the last one, I will go ahead and call this one desktop. So now, for example, you created a new screen and you want to reuse this grid. So you will go to frame section again, and you can select iPhone SE. And for the desktop, you can also go to frame and select desktop, and I will select MacBook Pro 16 once again. And now I will apply the grids. So to apply grids, I will go to layout grids and press this four dots. And for mobile, I will select mobile. And for MacBook Pro, I will select the desktop version. So these are the two methods that you can utilize and create your own grid, or if you are not able to create it by yourself, you can also get help from the community. Thanks for watching. I will be sharing more.